I think everybody should wrestle at least once. Girl, boy, 15 years old, 5 years old. I think everybody should try wrestling once because it is such a unique sport and develops characteristics that you don't know you have and are so important for real life.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Wrestle podcast. I am your host, Jessica Brenton, and today I am joined by a very special guest, Miss Maggie Smith. She is a Wyoming high school state champion at 190 pounds. She is a nationally ranked freestyle wrestler, and she's a coach for her club where she's from. So thank you for joining us, Maggie. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to have you here. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
So I have been wrestling since I was 3 years old. I have learned to love the sport. I will be going to college in the fall for the sport. I coach. I compete year-round.
Yes.
Yes, I'm very busy with everything. So
much.
Wrestling, I used to do football, choir. I'm diabetic. I do art. So yeah, I'm always busy, but
What got you started in wrestling?
I have two older brothers, and I was just the little kid in the room. I was the baby in the little seat, just sitting there like every day for years. And then I think when I was 3, that was the first year I was like allowed to start. That was the only year we allowed 3-year-olds to join club. And yeah, I just jumped right in and went from there.
Yeah. So since I've been coaching you, you started with me when you were like 12 years old.
Yep.
Our first tournament that we went to, I think, was in Colorado Springs, maybe for folk style nationals. It was a long time ago. But then we ended up going internationally for the first time. Went to Japan. You went to Germany and Austria with me. So on those trips, how was that experience wrestling in another country?
It was very unique. The Japan trip, I had lots of stresses because a month before, 3 weeks before, I found out I was diabetic. So that was a whole different.
I was stressed too.
there was a lot going on that trip, but both trips, it was just so unique. It's cool to see how no matter where you are, like wrestling brings people together, and like every wrestling room. I mean, it's a little bit different, but it's always the same when you're in a wrestling room. Like everybody has the same love and respect for each other.
Yeah, and then you create those friendships, and I feel like once you've been in a wrestling mat with somebody, you guys are lifelong friends because, I mean, it's just wrestling just brings you together, and you're like a family rather than friends after that. So I definitely loved going internationally. I thought that was really cool. Nationally is really fun too. What kind of national teams have you been on?
I would say all of them, but there's been a couple this year I didn't make it to. But for the past 8 years, you've been the head coach, right, for the state. I've gone to folk style nationals, I think, every year but one. Freestyle nationals, every year I was qualified. The past 3 years, I've been too heavy to compete at freestyle nationals. I've gone to a couple dual tournaments in Iowa. We've traveled to West Regionals together, so...
Lots of tournaments, and you're at every single one of them, and I love it.
The U.S. Open, all of it, yeah.
Yeah, I love to see your progression in it. I have a picture with you at the U.S. Open, and you were like 12 with this huge trophy and just standing there, and I just love comparing those pictures because, you know, you were so young, and now you're a graduating senior, so I'm really sad that you're leaving, but it has been an honor and a pleasure to coach you. I loved seeing you grow up, and I loved seeing you progress, and seeing what you're doing with the sport's amazing. You host a wrestling camp now. You've done that for, 2 years now?
Yep, this was our second year.
Yeah, you and Brinley do that camp, and you go to camps all the time. You're so busy with coaching. Also, you coach your clubs. So thinking about coaching for you and the camp that you hold, what's some of your favorite things that you experience doing that?
Coaching offers like a new perspective, and I think it helps me become a better athlete too, because I'm like able to take a step back and see where other people struggle, see where I struggle, make those connections. Yeah. And when I get to help people, like it makes me think about the sport more. And I've had a bunch of different types of coaches. Some coaches like show the move and that's it. Some coaches show like 20 moves of practice. And I've learned what I like, what kind of practices I like, what kind of practice I like when I'm coaching. So I've just become more comfortable with the sport, and I've learned to respect other people's methods, but I've definitely like grown stronger in what I do.
I definitely get that. I think going from a wrestler to a coaching standpoint gives you a whole new perspective on being a wrestler. And I think it definitely helps you learn different ways to do things on the mat when you are a wrestler at the same time. So I think that's a cool aspect of coaching. And then you also ref. So I think that's another aspect of it that, you don't see as a coach or an athlete that also teaches you how to be a better wrestler.
So I started reffing this year, and it showed me so many different things that like I didn't know, or like now I know the calls better. I know all this funky stuff that can happen in folk style and freestyle.
Yeah.
It helps me explain moves and why you do things to other wrestlers. Like I was explaining slip throws to a couple of the girls the other day at camp, and they're like, I don't even know what that is. And it's crazy to see the different like knowledge that is in like people do and don't have.
Right.
And I love being able to give people that. So
yeah, and I think that it helps also increase the girl ref numbers to have you out there. There's not very many girl refs, so I think seeing you do that and coach and wrestle is very admirable thing to do. So I'm glad that you can do all three and learn every aspect of it. And I love that you stay a student of the sport, because, if you think you know everything, you don't, especially in wrestling. It's always evolving. It's always something else to learn. And you might know a move, but there's 12 different variations to that move, So I love that you can continue to grow and learn more from the sport in each of those steps through life. So I think that that's important for sure. So moving on to, you're going to college. So you're going to Colorado Mesa. Yes. How did you get recruited? Were they recruiting you? Did you reach out to them? How did that process go for you?
So I think I was very active in my recruiting process because I knew I wanted to wrestle in college. Like there was no doubt in my mind I was going to wrestle in college. So about halfway through my junior year of high school, I got bored in one of my classes, researched every school that had a women's wrestling program, and I just made this big list, this big spreadsheet. And I filled out every athletic questionnaire on every website that I could, because why would I pay attention in class?
Yeah.
When I can just do wrestling stuff. So that's how I got like my first step in. It helps that I travel to regional and national tournaments, because that means you're already on their radar, but you can be recruited without having that. So just kind of like bugging the coaches. So when I fill out those questionnaires, it like pops up, they see my name. A couple weeks later, reach out if it is a school that interested me. And I think in my whole recruiting journey, I think I talked to 2/3 of the colleges in the United States with the program. So that's cool to like look at my spreadsheet and look at every coach that I've talked to, and like know that I have those connections as I continue like competing in college. I'll know all these coaches and have these, like, just because I didn't go to their school doesn't mean that there's not a bond there.
Right. Yeah. You mean connections with all of them. Yeah.
So I bugged a lot of coaches, and it worked out.
I love it. How many schools wanted you?
There was 4 or 5 that like wanted me.
Yeah.
That it was like big money, like talking to me all the time, making sure I went on a visit. And then there was another like 10 that like, I don't know if they recruit different than the other schools, or if they were just a little bit less interested, but there was 15-ish that were like very active in the recruiting process.
How did you end up with Colorado Mesa?
So last summer, I went to their camp, their camp that they hold in the summer. They have like 3 camps back to back. And it was the first camp that I have ever, it was the first any wrestling environment ever that I have had multiple people my size to drill with that were all like eager to get better. So
that's important.
It was incredible. Like that is by far my favorite camp, just from, I was lucky to have like 4 people my size that wanted to get better.
Yeah.
Like, it just worked out that they were there that year. So I already had that good, like, opinion of the school just by chance.
Yeah.
And I ended up talking to Travis Mercado. He's the head coach. One of the days after our last session, I just, like, sat down with him on the mat. I think we ended up talking for like 2 hours.
Nice.
Just about the school, about recruiting in general, any advice he has for me. And so we started off on a very good foot.
Yeah.
And then in the fall of my senior year, I went on 6 or 7 visits to different schools. And the 3 most important things I was looking for is I wanted something like in a different environment than Rock Springs.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be like in a city. Like, I needed a change of pace, kind of far away, but I didn't want to be in a big city. I didn't want to be 13 hours away.
Yeah.
So I ended up with a good mix there, being in Grand Junction. I wanted a program that is eager in season and out of season. So we want to be NCAA champs, and we want to send people to the U.S. Open, have athletes on the world teams. Like, that is something super important to me. And then just a general, like, good vibe in the room. Yeah. Like, if I don't like their practices, I obviously can't deal with that for 4 years.
Yeah.
So it was just finding that right fit. And after lots of long talks with my parents, with my club coaches, with my high school coaches, I mean, fingers crossed, Mesa's the right place for me. We're going to find out soon. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch you, and you better send me your schedule soon. As soon as you know it.
As soon as I know it, I'll send it.
As soon as you know it. Excited to watch you wrestle in college. You said earlier on that when you started with me, right before we went to Japan, you found out you were a diabetic. How has that been different for you wrestling? Are you nervous about that in college? What have you learned about being diabetic through wrestling?
So it has definitely helped develop my character as a person and as an athlete, because I have so many more challenges than other wrestlers. I have to learn this, like, daily balance of what to eat, how much to exercise, know when to stop. That has been a hard thing to learn throughout the years. Like, one of the times I was at practice, like, the lowest I had ever been, my mom was like, you need to eat and stop. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go wrestle. And she had to, like, drag me off the mat. So wanting to still go compete, but also knowing that I have to take care of myself to compete is a really hard balance. But I think I've developed that maturity. That's not a worry. But I am, like, the only thing I'm, like, truly nervous for going into college is having to teach a whole new, like, all my teammates, a new coaching staff, a new athletic training staff, how I have to approach wrestling different from everybody else. I have learned, especially this year, that I cannot cut weight. Yeah. Which, like, 2-3 pounds, that's not a worry. But bigger girls make bigger cuts. I've tried to make 180 3 times this year, and I was anywhere from 0.6 over to, like, 5 pounds over. And it's just because my body can't handle these big changes. And my, like, as a diabetic, I'm holding on to different, like, I hold on to fat instead of muscle. Right. So it's something that's definitely going to be a challenge going into college, because I want to move down to 170. Right now I'm sitting at 191 and planning to compete at 191. But I learned most 190s sit at, like, 210 out of season. Yeah. So that's...
But that's most people that aren't diabetic.
Exactly. You know? So there's lots of challenges, and it's going to be a whole new, like, experience. Yeah. Lots of learning. And I think it just means more, like, dedication. I have to be more consistent. So the easiest way I explain it to people that don't understand how wrestling and cutting weight works is when normal people follow a, like, nutrition and exercise plan, it's about an 80-20 balance. Like, 80% of the time you're, like, doing what you're supposed to, eating what you're supposed to, and then 20% of the time you can kind of, like, chill out, have foods you want. But I think as a diabetic that has high goals in a sport, I think that balance changes to, like, 95-5. Yeah. So that's probably the simplest way to explain it, is I just have to be more consistent with my food, with my exercise, with everything.
Yeah, you definitely have to keep that focus, which is something that I think wrestling will help you do. Just keeps your mental toughness. That's something that the sport brings along with it. So I think this is the perfect sport to have that and to be able to stay motivated and consistent in something, especially being diabetic. It'll help you, reach that mentality and stay on your track, especially if you want to make those weights and if you can't. I know this last year we were at the U.S. Open trying to cut those last 0.6 ounces off you. Wrestled you. I got.
That wasn't fun.
No, it wasn't. Made you bundle up and you kept headbutting me and it was fine. I had a lump on my head, but whatever. But yeah, I noticed that then, like, you still had energy to go. You were still pushing yourself. We worked for an hour and a half before weigh-ins, just wrestling and wrestling on our feet, and those last ounces would not come off.
Yeah. And another thing with that though is I've tried to make these big cuts and not been able to cut out, like, get rid of the weight. And I've been wasting so much energy trying to get the weight, but then I still do great at the tournaments.
Yeah. No,
which is awesome.
Yeah.
But when I weigh in at 180.6 and I'm wrestling girls that are 200 and I'm doing good, I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, what'd you take, third at that?
Yeah, I took third at that
in the
tournament.
next 20-pound up weight class.
Exactly. And so that's why at Fargo this year, so this next weekend, I'm just going to go 200, be healthy, strong, nourished. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm excited to coach you at that. How do you feel going into Fargo?
I'm ready. Yeah. I always have training partners that I think are ideal for me.
Yeah.
I also, want the best all the time.
Right.
So it's hard to find that balance, and I am happy that I do have a training partner this year.
Yeah.
But throughout the past couple months, I've been working with my club coaches.
Yeah.
And almost every time we've been in the room, they're like, you're hitting moves on me that I'm not expecting. One of my coaches, when he was still active, which was only like 8 years ago, he was ranked 8 in the world with Greco wrestling. And he's like, I don't know how to stop you. So like, that's so cool to hear.
Yeah.
That that they're seeing improvement.
Yeah.
And I've just felt clean and like I'm in good positions. I feel like I've gotten a lot better at moving my feet this year. So
yeah. And you just went to that
good.
Colorado Mesa camp.
Yep.
And then we're at our Fargo camp right now.
I've been active all summer. I am not worried about conditioning. We're going to be at lower elevation anyway, but I think it's just a mental game from here. I think I'm physically prepared.
Do you feel mentally prepared?
Yeah. Right now. A lot can happen in 4 days.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited to go and coach you one last time. See how you do. I'm excited for, this tournament. I'm excited to have 12 girls wrestling with us. I think last year was only 6. So we have a lot more girls this year wrestling, almost doubled the number. Do you think that is something to attribute to us being sanctioned?
Yes, for sure, because we have at least one first-year girl in the room right now. And the other girls, I know Meadow has never wrestled or hasn't wrestled many, if any, freestyle tournaments. So seeing, I think, the growth throughout the state and seeing other girls wanting to come up is even making the girls that do have experience be like, oh, I got to step up my game. Like, I got to keep being active. And it's really cool. And I mean, going from me, Brynlee, Tila, and Ty to, because it's us 4 have been pretty consistent for the past 5 years. Yeah. Whether we're all at the same tournament or not, it's been like us 4. Yeah. And now it's like, I don't even know half the girls' names. When we went to Iowa, I'm like, who are you?
There were so many girls.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah, it was great. Loving having the team sports and the team aspect and going from tournaments of wrestling folk style to freestyle. And then you love Greco. What do you think the importance is of knowing all of the styles of wrestling?
Wrestling is wrestling, no matter what. You're always looking to be in similar positions. Like, obviously, comparing Greco to folk style, you're not hitting, or freestyle, you're not hitting your knees when you're taking shots, but you still have to have good hip position. You're still, like, penetrating into shots and throws. And it's all, is all the same. It can all translate to the other styles.
Yeah.
And having that versatility makes you such a better wrestler. So when girls are expecting gut wrenches in freestyle and I just do a half or a cradle.
Yeah.
Like that's the same thing with you when you wrestled in college, right? Like not everybody's expecting that, but being able to have all these tools in your toolbox is very important, I think. I think that's what makes high level wrestlers.
Yeah, and I think that's great that you said that, and especially if they want to wrestle in college, because it's not folk style anymore.
Yeah. And we're getting to the point now where there's enough colleges that are old enough that if you don't have a little bit of freestyle experience, it's not super realistic.
Yeah.
So I know some high school or some states are looking to transition to modified folk style, but even getting local freestyle tournaments underneath your belt is going to help you in that long run if that's what you desire.
Right. I agree. And there's a lot of colleges out there, and it would be a shame to be overlooked by one of them because you've never wrestled freestyle before. Yeah. So even just like these small tournaments and the local tournaments, get out there and try it, you know, because it's definitely going to help you in the long game, especially if you're trying to go to college and be recruited. I think that that's super important for them to know. But I know your favorite style is Greco. What got you a love for the Greco sport?
I don't know. I just love it. I think it has an extra like oomph to it. It's a little bit more aggressive. Throws are cool. Like, and it's very important to be in good position. Like if you get out of position, my hips are up, like I'm not in a strong position, then you're done. Yeah, like you get thrown twice and you're
flying.
Yeah. I think it's such a unique style, and watching high level, so especially the past 3-4 years when I've gone to the US Open and seeing the like world team like level athletes wrestle Greco, it's like there's so much potential and it's so cool to watch.
Yes, it is. Do you think they're going to add girls Greco coming up into the national tournaments for the high school girls?
I don't know how long it will take, but I know it's going to be a thing.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we've said, me and my dad have always said, like, by the time you're done wrestling, they're going to get it.
Yeah, probably.
And that's probably the truth. I'll probably be one of the first, like, Greco women's coaches. But
yeah, which is a great goal to have.
It is awesome.
Hey, I'm actually surprised that Fargo hasn't gotten Greco yet.
I thought it was going to happen this year or next, because I know Zao Estrada, she's wrestling in the boys Greco this year. Yeah. And that's, like, Ty told me that, and I was like, whoa, like, good for her, awesome.
Yeah.
But I didn't necessarily think girls were going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. That gives us that next push to be like, where's ours?
Yeah.
Where's ours?
Keep striving to be equal with the boys.
Yes. And at the U.S. Open, I think it was you and my dad were sitting in front of Diamond Gilliford. And she was like, I want to wrestle girls. Like, I want to wrestle Greco. Why isn't there girls Greco?
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
She was going off about it. It's funny to hear. But yeah, I think it's awesome to keep striving to get those equal opportunities for girls, because we love Greco too. So thinking about the equal opportunities that we just got in Wyoming, now that we have a high school state championship for girls in the folk style high school, what was that like wrestling this year in high school?
It was so weird for me.
Yeah.
Because I've wrestled the past 14 years, the only girl on the team, or like there was like a 5-year-old girl when I was like 13, like, you know, no, there was nobody for me.
Yeah.
And I would go to tournaments and I would see like maybe 1 or 2 girls. Yeah. Like I would see Brindley around, I'd see Ty around, and that was about it.
Yeah.
And this year, going into the year, I was like, we're sanctioned. I don't know what this is going to be like.
Yeah.
Our high school room, we started with like 7 girls, and we only ended up with me and one other, Hallie Witt. And I mean, we got after it. Like, it's awesome to have a partner now, because I've never had a female partner consistently. And going to the tournaments and seeing all these girls, whether they've wrestled for 1 year or 2 years, or if it's their first week. Every week you would go to the high school tournaments and you would see improvement.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how much it can grow in such a short time.
I love it. I love it. I
It's
love
awesome.
to see it.
And from like my little coaching perspective, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like last week they had their butts up and were in awful stances and now they can take good shots.
Yeah.
I'm like,
They're off their knees, finishing on their feet.
It's so cool to see that progression because you don't see that in any sports. You can't like see week to week improvement like that.
Right.
And I've had people from other states, like when they come to camps here or tournaments here, they're like, the quality of wrestling here is just a lot higher. Like I know somebody from California, she's like, we've had girls wrestling forever. And it's just, you don't get those quality matches till you get to the state tournament, and like during high school season. But between you and me and Brindley and all of us, we've started at quality. Yeah. And we're going to keep getting better and better. And we don't have to worry about like fixing.
Right. Yeah. I love it. I love it. It's so great to see. And also to be able to see you guys have your own girls high school state championship. So tell me what that was like.
So that was also very unique. I didn't know how they were going to run it. There was a whole bunch of issues the week of.
Yeah. That was aggressive.
It was so cool to watch the finals. I wish that it would have been like the boys and girls finals were at the same time. Yeah. Because I know when I'm watching the boys, I put so much attention on the semifinals because it's always so exciting. Yeah. So the boys semifinals were going on at the same time as the girls finals. So it kind of sucked to not be able to watch the boys because they're my teammates too. Yeah. Like I care about them too.
I agree.
But the energy and attention on the girls' mat was crazy.
It was awesome.
We were on the edge of the arena and there was just people everywhere. Packed. And it was crowded and it was loud. Yeah. And it's exactly what you want it to be. Yeah. Like everybody was excited and that's how it like always should be. Yeah. So that was very cool to experience, to be a part of. Yeah. And I'm thankful that me and all my friends and all these girls got to be the first ever.
I'm honestly jealous about it. But I'm glad
you played a big role.
Yeah. Behind the scenes. But I'm glad it happened and I was glad to see it and, just to see you guys get your hand raised in that moment and the crowd cheering like crazy for you and you running up to your dad up the stairs, giving him a big hug.
Yeah, my biggest issue was like, I have so many people to give hugs to. You, my high school coaches, Brindley, my parents, Hallie. Like, that was like a fever dream. Yeah. Like, I got off the mat and I'm like,
so many hugs.
I need to go find my parents and then I can hug everybody else.
Well, it's great. That means a lot of people were supporting you and looking up to you.
I'm very lucky for my support system.
Yeah, you have a very good one. And honestly, you mold a lot of little girls. You do, like coaching and having your camps, and you push these little girls and help them and break it down so they can understand. And I love that you do that. I think it's so unique and so inspiring, honestly, that you do that for all these little girls, and then to watch them or have them watch you win a state title and be like, that's my coach, like that's a cool thing. Yeah. So I'm very proud of you, and I'm very excited to see what else you can do in this sport and where it's going to take you on later in life. Is there anything else you'd like to add or say to any of the people watching right now?
I am going to continue being active in Wyoming and, well, anywhere I can be with women's wrestling. So if you want to follow me on, I think, all my socials, it's 307 Maggie Smith. I'm going to try building my brand and business a little bit more. But I think everybody should wrestle at least once. Girl, boy, 15 years old, 5 years old. I think everybody should try wrestling once because it is such a unique sport and develops, it develops characteristics that you don't know you have and are so important for real life.
Yeah, and anybody can wrestle, whether you're a diabetic, you're completely healthy, or you don't have legs. Like people of any caliber can wrestle, and you don't have to be good to wrestle, and you still get it the entire season. So that's the cool thing about it. So thank you so much for joining me, Maggie. It was a pleasure to have you on. Anytime. So you'll probably come back later on down the road. Good luck in Fargo. Good luck with your college journeys and ventures. It's been a pleasure coaching you and watching you grow throughout the years. I'm really sad that you're leaving me.
Not forever.
Yeah,
I'll
you're
be
not.
back.
I'm really sad that I don't get to coach you anymore. Should I say you're not leaving me? You're not. But thank you for joining me. I look forward to what you can do in the sport. So thank you everybody for joining me on the Wrestle Her podcast. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
I can't accept the loss, I'm hard-headed. There's a little bit of madness to my method. Many falling off that fine line that I'm treading. I risk anything to be great, and I'm not letting nobody rob me of my victory. Number one, that's what I'm meant to be. When by any means, only thing that makes sense to me, I can make nice or make history.